Hi, my name is Gudde. I'm a woodworker and furniture maker in Austin, Texas. Welcome to the shop. In this video, I'm going to show you how to take a scrap piece of plywood, make a circle cutting jig, and cut out tables like this. This is a very simple, inexpensive jig to make. You can buy circle cutting jigs. I prefer to make them. You don't really need anything more than a piece of plywood and a base for your router. I have this one that I made in February of 2017, and I'm going to show you how to make it now. Alright, so to start with, you're going to take your piece of plywood. This is the base for my router. I made this earlier. It just screws into the router base. And all I'm going to do is just give it a rough mark right here. I'm going to put an X right there to line up with the X on this. Alright, so I'm going to find the center line of this piece of plywood. It's about 6.5, so that should be about 3 1/4. And I just mark 3 1/4. I run my square through the center line. Alright, so now that I have the center line, I'm going to continue the center line all the way up to the top. Just using this. Do the best I can to keep it square against the piece, but this piece isn't really that square, so shouldn't matter too much. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the center of the opening, which is about 4 inches, and then from here, put a straight edge line. So this is the center of my router bit. I'm just going to line it up with this. And I'm going to take my clamps. So now I've got it lined up about where I want it. What I'm going to do now is drill holes to mount the base plate to the jig. Now that I've got my 4 holes, I'm going to mount my base plate to my router, punch a hole in here, and then we're going to keep going. I have my router mounted to my piece of plywood, which is going to become my jig. I use a spiral upcut bit because it cleans out debris and it allows me to plunge cut into my material, and that's what I have mounted now. So what I'm going to do is plunge cut a hole all the way through here, and I'll show you the next step. As you saw in the plunge cut, I used a spare piece of plywood underneath it to get a clean cut on the through side. So now I'm going to remove the router and start making my guide marks. So all I'm going to do is just put my square here on the edge of the bit cutout. Now all I have to do is measure from this line, which is the inner cut line. So this is the innermost part of the blade, which will be the outside of the material that I'm going to be cutting. And I just need to measure however many inches I want for the diameter. So if I want a 24-inch final round blank, I need to measure 12 inches from this point down here. Usually I start with 12 inches and go 2 up and 2 below. That gives me a pretty good run. You can do this as long as you need to. You can do it 30 inches and you'll have a 60-inch circle in the end. The possibilities are endless. I've got 10 inches, 12 inches, 14, and 12.5, and these are the diameters of the circle. So really this will be a 20-inch circle, 24, this will be 25, and this will be 28. And what I like to do is mark the date I make the jigs. So I'm just gonna write circle jig. And today is the 16th, so 5/16/2020. So now that I have these marked, I'm going to drill a hole in the center of this, so the center line of that. I'm going to drill a 5/32 inch hole along each of these designations because 5/32 is the exact pin size that I use when cutting out circles. Alright, so I'm going to use the same bit of scrap to drill these holes out so I don't have any tear out. I got my 5/32 inch bit in my drill. I'm going to use a center punch to punch out where I want the holes. So there's a circle jig. Took me less than 10 minutes to make this. So if you need it in a pinch, you can do it really quick. I'm going to mount the router back on here and show you how I use it. I've got my piece laid out. It's going to be a 25-inch circle top. When it's all said and done, I'm going to take my center punch. I marked out my center hole mark. So I'm going to take my center punch there. I'm going to take my 5/32 inch drill bit, drill my center hole. This is my indexing pin. It just came with a different accessory I had and I like it. You can use a nail, you can use a screw, you can use a bolt, you can use whatever you want that allows the circle jig to spin, and you'll see what I mean. I'm going to put the indexing pin at my 25-inch circle, at my 25-inch mark. I've got my indexing pin at my 25-inch mark on my jig, which is 12.5 on the diameter, which is going to make a 25-inch circumference circle. And all you do is you just allow this bad Jackson to spin around and you cut out your circle. So I'm going to clamp this piece down and start cutting out a circle. So each pass around the circle, I'm going to take about 7 millimeters out, and you'll see as I go. And here's our finished tabletop. It's 25 inches round. It actually measures 24 and 15/16 just because of the extra diameter of my pin. You can account for the pin diameter if you move your measurements up 1/8 or 1/16 of an inch. Thank you for watching this video. This is how I cut out my circle tabletops. It is not by any means the end all of how it can be done. I'm sure I do things incorrectly in some spots, but this is definitely how I do it. If you have some tips or questions or anything, I would love to hear from you. Please leave a comment below. If you like what you saw and you haven't already subscribed to the channel, I would ask that you do so at the bottom. Leave a comment below, like the video, and even hit that little bell notification if you want to see more videos I post in the future. It'll notify you when I put one up. Just a real simple jig. You can make it out of any sort of scrap plywood you have laying around. It can be steel, it can be plastic, it can be MDF, it can be a 2x4 if you really needed it to in a pinch. But that's how I make a circle jig and cut out a circle tabletop. So thank you for watching, and until next time.